We got a comment on last week's show from YouTube user Snake666Goddess, who writes, "Trite, unwatchable garbage from a two-dimensional cartoon character with a feigned interest in horror." I don't know what to say. I'm so hurt. I'm so wounded. Torn asunder from the inside. I just want to say, yeah, we finally pissed somebody off. Took us 59 episodes, but it's still a win. Here's your damn rant show, folks. Greetings, I am E. Adam Thomas, and this is Film Rants, serving up trite, unwatchable garbage for 60 straight episodes now. Tonight's film was requested by Kevin Rowe. Roll that beautiful bean footage, Crambot. What is the most gruesome, horrific, mind-bending, scary movie you've ever seen?
Manitou.
Manitou? I don't think I've heard of it. What's it about?
It's the Manitou is an Indian witch doctor who's died and comes back in the form of a fetus in a female. Could be on her shoulder, could be anywhere on her body. If you haven't seen it, it's a great movie.
That's right, tonight we're doing the 1978 William Girdler film, The Manitou, starring Tony Curtis, Susan Strasberg, and Michael Ansara. Curtis plays Harry Erskine, a charlatan psychic who makes an ethically comfortable living reading tarot cards for rich old ladies. His on-again, off-again girlfriend, Karen, played by Strasberg, develops an odd growth at the back of her neck, which in x-rays appears to be a human fetus. As the tumor grows, she begins exhibiting bizarre behavior and muttering some bizarre phrase in a foreign tongue, and it seems to be contagious. As one of his other clients actually starts muttering the exact same phrase, levitates herself out of Harry's apartment and straight down a flight of stairs like an elderly Dalek on mescaline. Turns out that the tumor itself is a 400-year-old Native American medicine man with extraordinary powers who is using Karen to reincarnate himself, and he plans to, well, to be honest, it's never really made clear what he specifically wants to do, beyond reincarnating himself enough times to get all of his boxes stamped on the Dutch Brothers immortality card and becoming the all-being master of time, space, and dimension, which, by the way, is really a tough, thankless job. Way too much responsibility, and the pay sucks balls. Ultimately, after a quaint consultation with Burgess Meredith, Harry enlists the help of a modern-day medicine man, John Singing Rock, played by Michael Ansara, who may also moonlight as a karaoke host, but that's not entirely made clear. I always felt Michael Ansara was an amazing actor, regardless of the fact that 95% of his career has been playing stereotypical ethnic character roles. The character lends a bit of weight and credibility to this otherwise silly and vaguely insulting plot. John tries his best to prevent the evil medicine man from coming into the world, because so doing would effectively kill Karen and wipe out all life on Earth as we know it. But it is all for naught, as the menace known as Misquamacus is born anyway and immediately starts wreaking havoc like a fucking boss. He turns the entire floor of the hospital into a frozen wasteland and pretty much beats the shit out of the staff in a variety of bizarre and twisted ways. Finally, Karen's hospital room is turned into a space-time vortex. John has mentioned that all things, even man-made objects, have their own spiritual Manitou, and Harry hits upon the idea to turn on every single piece of computerized equipment in the entire hospital, and using their Manitou, or Manitou, I don't know, whatever. using their power to defeat Misquamacus. What follows is a special effects sequence that is equal parts stupidly awesome, hilarious, and cheesy as all fuck. The Manitou is not a huge cult phenomenon like the Rocky Horror Picture Show or Plan 9 from Outer Space, but it does have just enough cheese to make up for some unusually palatable cinematic junk food, basically. Tony Curtis does an amazing job of playing the part with equal parts sincerity and cheekiness, making a conscious effort to be in on the joke while not overselling it. And Sarah, too, is brilliantly authentic with his hackneyed dialogue that he's given, lending even some of his most insulting lines a degree of depth that keeps you watching in spite of yourself. Technically, for a 1978 film costing $3 million, this film is surprisingly bad visually. This film was put out only about 2 years after Star Wars was made, but to look at it, you'd think that the special effects were made for a 1960s flying saucer epic. They managed to get about 5 seconds of footage using the slit scan technique developed by Douglas Trumbull for 2001, which is probably where $2 million of that budget went to. But otherwise, the whole film looks more like an episode of The $6 Million Man crossing over with Buck Rogers in the 25th century. It's obvious this is not a film that takes itself too seriously. It's a cheesy movie that knows it's a cheesy movie, and it doesn't try too hard to be anything more. Some movies are made to be important, and some are made purely to entertain. This film obviously strives to be the latter. I didn't really enjoy it that much, but I can see where it would be enjoyable to some others, especially fans of cheesy horror films. It's kind of a shame this movie wasn't picked or wasn't available for an episode of MST3K, because Joel or Mike and the bots certainly would have had a lot of fun riffing on this one. Looking at the rantometer, Artistic gets a 3. Visually, this film is shot like a late 70s action-adventure series, and if it weren't for the utterance of the word bullshit at one point and Susan Strasberg's implied nudity, it would have been difficult to tell whether or not this film had actually been released in theaters. Coolness gets a 3 as well, largely for Tony Curtis's scenery chewing. Originality gets a 2, as there's really nothing new here, but all of the various influences that they took from films like The Exorcist and Rosemary's Baby are at least not as in-your-face as they could have been. Suckitude, unfortunately, does get a 3 as well, because of one of the most annoying things that many a 70s-era mid-budget movie often suffers from, and that was a shitty as fuck audio mix, especially in the location shots. The soundtrack is so overwhelmed by ambient sounds, especially traffic noises, car honking, motors, things driving by. It practically drowns out the badly looped dialogue. I imagine for each shot of exterior footage in this film, they had to use at least 30 or 40 stock library street sound effects, and they were so high in the mix, it was downright annoying as fuck. That gives the Manitou a total score of 5. I gotta turn that down from an 11. It's not a horrible film, but it's definitely not memorable. Except for maybe fans of campy, cheesy movies. Next week, another viewer-requested film. 3 more episodes to go, and then look for the start of the new series, Adam's Rant Cast, starting in December. Have a great night, and you might want to get that thing on your neck checked out, just in case. Good night. Angry Men Reviews. Many fucks said, no fucks given.
Fuck 'em, kill 'em, and eat 'em, boys. Go ahead.
So, Brendan, was that Triton unwatchable enough?